Yep, no, cellar door's still closed. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I've got to go. I've got to go to drinks. Bye. Hello, everybody. Lovely to see you. I was getting a bit nervous because I couldn't see anyone had logged in and it was getting up to 5 o'clock. So I'm sorry I'm a little bit late joining you, 30 seconds late. Do say hello if you're there. Be nice to see you. And let me know. Oh, hi, Kay. How are your sandwiches? Let me know if this camera angle looks a little bit better. I've been getting some tips from some professionals to get the computer in the right place so that you're not looking at my nose or that kind of thing. So anyway, welcome to Drinks. Oh, hi everyone. Thanks, Shell. Thanks, Kay. Hello, Craig. Welcome to Drinks with Kate. It's that time of the afternoon on a Thursday. Hi, Angela. I'm just so jealous of those toasties. They sound delicious. Anyway, Richard has lit me a fire again. It's crackling away in the background, which is lovely. And I have my Chardonnay ready. Got it out of the fridge a little while ago. And the reason that I suggested that you did that was because I think I've said this to you before, so I apologise if I'm repeating myself. But in this country, we tend to drink white wine too warm and red wine other way around. White wine too cold, red wine too warm. So, hi Penny, lovely to see you. So I think with a Chardonnay, particularly a Chardonnay like this, it needs a little bit less chill on it than say a fresh little Riesling or something like that. So this is the wine that we're tasting tonight. And I have to apologise to Kay, and there may be another few people out there who bought either the 3-bottle pack, which was the first half of this pack, or bought the interim 6-bottle pack, because this wine we were actually going to taste in 3 weeks' time, and I swapped it all around. So I'm really sorry, Kay. I hope you've got a glass of something lovely anyway. And I apologise to anybody else who is scrambling through their 3-bottle pack or their 6-bottle pack and can't find a bottle of the Moorooduc McIntyre Chardonnay. We will go back to the original order next week, I promise. So tonight we're drinking Chardonnay because we had Pinot last week, and I got a little overexcited because this is our very top Chardonnay, the Moorooduc McIntyre Chardonnay. We call it the Duck for short, but you spell that D-U-C, no K on the end, just to be really ridiculous. Anyway, this is from 2017, and 2017 was a really interesting vintage. It was a vintage where we had pretty poor weather during flowering and fruit set, and what that means, because vines actually self-pollinate, so when they're wanting to flower and set those flowers to become fruit, they basically need lovely sunny weather. It's ideal if it's not too windy, so that when the vines are ready and when the flowers open, and they're little teeny tiny white flowers, they're not very pretty to look at. The vineyard smells amazing though. If you ever get a chance to walk through a vineyard as it's flowering, it smells absolutely gorgeous. And as they open, they poof their pollen up into the air, and ideally it falls straight back down again onto the flowers and pollinates the flowers. Now in 2017, we had a lot of rain, which made it difficult for the caps, the tops of the flowers, to pop off. And once the caps of the flowers were able to pop off, then when they tried to self-pollinate, the pollen kind of got taken away by the rain. So what that meant was that we got uneven fruit set, which means we had bunches of grapes as they ripened that had big and little grapes in them. So they ripened at a different rate. The little grapes had no seeds in them, so they weren't properly pollinated, and they ripened a lot faster than the big grapes that had seeds in them and needed longer for the sugars to go up and the acids to go down. And so, as well as it being a small vintage as a result of that, it was also quite difficult to know when the fruit was perfectly ripe, because if you judged it by the little berries, then the wine wasn't going to be ripe enough if you had too many big berries in there. And if you judged it by the big berries, then you might find that the ripeness levels were much higher than you expected because you've got all these little berries that are riper. So in 2017, we still made 2 single vineyard Chardonnays. We made the Robinson and we made the Moorooduc McIntyre. This wine is usually a bigger, richer, more savoury, more expressive Chardonnay as a young wine. And in 2017, it's quite fine. And I do this to you every week, don't I? I start talking about the wine and we don't have any in our glass. So let's get on with that. And I'll keep talking about it in a minute. So let's get this open. And because I also promised to talk to you about decanting white wine. It's something people talk about, decanting wine, a lot. And we're doing a little wine tasting for our wine club members on Sunday. And I got some questions from them about decanting older red wine, which is something that we know quite a lot about. You decant older red wine to get a little bit of air into the wine, but also to get the liquid wine off the solids that have fallen out of the wine. With a young white wine, what you're wanting to do is get air into the wine quickly so that it starts to smell and taste more expressive more quickly. So I've got a little decanter here. If you've got your jug or decanter and you'd like to decant along with me, please try not to spill it all over the table. Well, you can spill it all over the table at your place. I'm not going to come and tidy it up. So up to you. What we want to do is get the wine in the decanter, but we want to do it quite fast because we want it to aerate. So there we go. Can you see the bubbles that are happening in the decanter? That's oxygen getting into the wine. And then you have that beautiful golden liquid in the decanter. And then you don't need to do that way before you're drinking the wine. You just do it just before you put the wine into the glass. And then see, we get more aeration again as we put it into the glass. And you get to play with wine and decanters and glasses, and it's all good fun. So I actually think that any young wine, red or white, but particularly white wine, which we don't traditionally decant in this country, will benefit from a quick decant before you drink it. If it's older, it's already started to develop. It'll be a little bit more delicate, so you don't want to treat it so roughly. But when it's young like this is the 2017. This is our current release. We released it at Christmas time. And we want to get some air into it because it's quite a tight and closed wine when it's first opened. So now we have it in the glass. You can have a smell and a sip. Have a chicken sandwich. I know Kay was making chicken sandwiches. Did anyone else make the chicken sandwiches? They're pretty good. If you didn't make them for tonight, make sure you make them for yourself sometime because they are, I reckon, the best chicken sandwiches I've ever tasted. So on the nose, this wine has got this beautiful lemon fruit aromatic. It's quite tight, quite fine. It's not big and rich at the moment, which is what people expect from this label, for it to be sort of bigger and richer, but that comes with age. It also comes with a slightly more classic vintage perhaps than 17. Craig was saying that he's decanted his for 10 minutes. It's only now opening up. So Angela, yes, swish your young wine in the glass. But that's why I've filled my glass up a little bit too much. I can only swish it sort of slightly excitedly. Whereas if I had half as much in the glass, then I could really give it a good whoosh. Penny, any sort of decanter works. It really doesn't matter as long as it's clean and it can hold 750 mils of wine. You can use a decanter like that. That's just a little Riedel Magnum decanter. That's one of their, I was going to say entry-level decanters, but nothing Riedel is entry-level really. I think they retail for about $60. But you can use a jug. You can use a kitchen jug, a plastic kitchen jug, 1 litre jug, just whoosh it in. And then if you don't like the way that looks, you can actually, if you've got a funnel, you can then put the wine back into your bottle and serve it from the bottle again. And that's called double decanting. 1, 2, double decanting. Beautiful. So I think you're right, Craig. This one really needs a lot of air. So while we're talking and tasting and eating our Gruyere toasties and our chicken sandwiches, give your wine a little bit of a swirl, get some air into it, and get your nose in there and smell what it smells like first of all, because it's quite unusual, this wine, when it's first poured. As I said, it's got that little lemon citrus fruit character. As it opens up, that develops into more of a pink grapefruit citrus character, a little bit more rich, a little more perfumed. And it's got this really interesting earthy, cedary, almost sandalwoody kind of a spice to it. And a lot of people ask me, when they first taste this wine, particularly compared to our other Chardonnays, do you put it in more new oak? Is that where that spicy character comes from? And the answer is no. It has exactly the same oak treatment as the Robinson Chardonnay, as the Estate Chardonnay has from the same year. That spicy character comes from the vineyard. Old vines and very specific site, which is right in front of me, right behind you guys. It's that vineyard that when you're sitting in this dining room, you look out the window and you see the vines, and that's the old Chardonnay vineyard. That's where this fruit comes from. The vines were planted in 1983 and they've just been growing there ever since. And we did an amazing job picking the right Chardonnay to grow right from the beginning. So that's why we've got these beautiful 35-year-old vines in the ground now. They're coming towards the end of their lives. Not right now, but they're getting older. They're producing less fruit, but as a result, we're getting more concentration and more complexity from those vines, which is what, oh, trout mousse, that, yes, I think that would be delicious. Shell, I think that would be very good with this wine. Grilled prawns, prawn mousse, also very good. So it's quite hard to describe that aroma, except there's this wonderful word that I use, and you're very welcome to borrow and use as your own. When a wine just smells like wine, and I've got a friend who says to me, Macca, don't try and tell me about this wine smelling like this, that, and the other. She says, it just smells like wine, okay? Which I think we probably mostly agree around this little table, that there are nuances to different wines, there are different aromas, there are different characters, but sometimes there's a character that is just wine-like, and the best word to use there is vinous, which means wine-like, but it's a really beautiful word. So I think this wine is quite vinous. It's got a savouriness, it's not grapey, but it smells and tastes like wine. It's got those sandalwood spices in there, it's got that citrus. It will develop with age and with air, some more honey, a little bit more developed fruit, maybe some fig with serious age. But right now it's tight and fine and citrusy. That's still really delicious. It's got this kind of perfume to it that's really hard to sort of get your head around. Now, James, what are you asking? Is it more that the wine opens up with the air, or is it our senses adjusting to the acid, sugar, tannins, etc., or both? That does make sense, James. And I'm going to take a sip of this wine before I answer that question, because that's a very difficult question to answer. It will take me a few words, so I need some wine. And on the palate, it's still tight and fine, but it's so concentrated and so powerful as well. It's really lovely. So James's question, it is absolutely that the wine is reacting with oxygen, which is helping it to open up, because oxygen is what helps wine to develop and change over time. It's why when it's in a bottle under a screw cap and closed up in your cellar, it evolves really slowly. It's why when you have a wine under cork, sometimes it will evolve very slowly if the cork does its job properly and keeps the air out and keeps the wine in. But often corks have a little bit of porosity and they allow air to come in. Hi, Kate. Lovely to see you. Glad you could join us. Corks can often let some air in, and in extreme cases let some wine out as well. But more often they let a little bit of wine in, a little bit of air in, and the wine evolves more quickly. And in a dramatic case, you get what's known as oxidation, which means that the flavours evolve so much that the wine becomes unattractive and old before its time. So it's one of the reasons that we like using screw caps on our wine. Our senses adjusting to the acid, sugar, tannin, aromas, flavours is a really interesting concept, because yes, it does take a little while to kind of get your palate in sync with a wine, but our nose and our sense of smell is really interesting, because it doesn't actually get better at smelling something if you smell it more and more. If you took this glass of wine and you very quickly smelt it and then smelt it again and smelt it again, and you can do that while I'm talking if you'd like to do the experiment, the third time you smell it, it smells almost of nothing, because our olfactory senses are designed to just, how do you say it? Just ignore smells that they've already smelt. So it's why in times before the sewage system, people could live in cities with open drains and walk around without being ill all the time. They just didn't smell, and it's why people had one bath a year in the medieval times. They didn't notice that they smelt because everybody smelt equally strongly, and their olfactory senses had got used to it. It's also the reason why I always say to people when they come to a wine tasting, don't wear perfume. And I've heard so many times people saying, it's all right, my perfume is very subtle, I can't smell it at all. And if you wear the same perfume every day, you won't smell it. If you borrow, say, someone's scarf or someone's cardigan or someone's coat, and my mum actually borrows my my puffy jacket that I leave here to take the dogs for a walk, and I always know when she's borrowed it because she wears a specific perfume, wears it every day, and I can smell it on my coat as soon as I put it on. I can't smell it on her anymore because she always smells that way. But when it's on something that's supposed to smell of me, it's very obvious. So even if you can't smell your own perfume or aftershave at a tasting, everybody else can, and it's kind of getting in the way of the wine. So it's why wine industry professionals get very het up about wearing perfume or things like, deodorants with lots of patchouli oil or whatever in them. They can get very much in the way of being able to smell and taste wine. So as we're chatting away, are you smelling and tasting your wine again? I think it is opening up slowly, slowly. Now this wine, I think this wine's very special. And one of the reasons this wine is special is because it comes from this old vineyard, as I was telling you before. It's also special because we don't make huge amounts of it, and we only make what we can, and we only make as much as we know is going to be brilliant. It is a wine that looks best with some age on it. It's a wine, hi Jeff, you made it. It's a wine that really rewards aging. So if you're enjoying it tonight, drink it slowly over the evening. Just let it kind of open up, let it change. It is a wine that if you've got a decent cellar, it's a wine that's worth buying a few bottles and putting it away. I like to drink this wine when it's between 6 and 8 years old, ideally. I think that's a really lovely window for this wine because it doesn't lose all its freshness, but it's developed secondary characteristics and more savouriness and those kind of things. And, if we keep doing these tastings for long enough, we might even manage to get to taste something with a bit of age on it as well, because, got to reward our loyal followers. And then you'll see what I mean about how this wine changes. It also has a character that is very distinctive for that vineyard, year in, year out. It doesn't matter how different the vintage is. The wines will always look a little bit different, but there's a power and there's a structure and there's a complexity to this wine that we don't get from any of the other fruit that we make wine from. It's a really special site. It's a really special wine. It's also the wine that we first got praise from third party, from media. James Halliday has always given this wine its top marks. And a lot of other media have written this wine up before we were ever famous for our Pinot Noir or our whole bunch Shiraz or our Pinot Gris on skins. This wine was the wine that first made the name of Moorooduc something a little bit recognisable and something worth seeking out. And so I think that to that, we should all raise our glasses and toast to the Moorooduc Chardonnay, our first success, and I think still a wonderful success of a Chardonnay. And in these times when a lot of people still think they don't like Chardonnay, I think that if they got to taste something that was as lovely and special and complex as this, then they might find themselves wanting to drink Chardonnay a little more often. So cheers, everyone. What a lovely way to end a Thursday. I'm going to finish up in a moment, but I just wanted to say, I know that I promised you Jill this week, and she's very shy. and she said she wasn't going to come and she wasn't going to join us. I still have to do some work on her. So Penny and Shell, I will definitely pass that on to her. I love that photo of her. It was taken a little while ago, not that long ago, about 12 months ago. And she's doing very well, but she and Richard are doing a very important job for me at the moment. They're taking the dogs for a walk. So you'll have noticed no Polly running around stealing my keys, barking. You might have heard her right at the beginning. There was a little bit of barking out in the kitchen, but they're all off running around as the sun sets and as we drink Chardonnay and eat chicken sandwiches. I think it's a wonderful way to end our Thursday. So I'll finish up there unless anyone's got any other questions. I will reiterate that next week we're going to be quite exciting next week. We're going to be reverting back to our original order because we're going to be tasting a new release wine next Thursday, and that is the 2017 Moorooduc Estate Pinot Noir. And we've just sold out at Cellar Door of the 2016, which was lovely. And thanks, Angela. I could bring a bit of medieval history into our wine tastings whenever I possibly can. I think it just, it's good to put things in context. And people probably needed a glass of wine quite a lot then to kind of clear their olfactory senses to smell nice things. Thank you, everyone. I will see you again next week with some Pinot Noir. I'll see if I can think of something really creative for our food and wine matches next week. Lovely to see you all again. Enjoy your evening, and yes, definitely enjoy that bottle of wine, and I'll see you next week. Cheers, everyone.